What's going on, everybody, and welcome back into the Built Different podcast, the place where we try to have the intersection conversations of mental health, ministry, but also motivation and sports. We bring on mental health experts, ministry leaders, motivational speakers, and a lot of times professional athletes. And just every once in a while, we bring on a winning coach. That's who we have here with us today. Somebody that has blessed us up here on the mountain at Liberty University, somebody that has blessed my life and has impacted me deeply, Coach Jamey Chadwell. We're here. Jamey has so many different accolades to his name. We're in his office. I'm looking around all these Paul Bear Bryant, Group of Five Conference Coach of the Year finalist, 2020 AP Coach of the Year. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here with you.
Let me begin by saying this. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of excitement. Students are coming back up here on the mountain at Liberty University, and the team, right, is looking good. You were just saying how proud you were of them and the effort that they put in thus far, and you're excited for the upcoming year. I want to start by asking, with all the excitement, what excites you the most, Coach?
Well, that's a great question. I will say this. I love when the first day of school's back. I love when all the activity's happening here. I tell you what, I'm excited about this team. I believe this is arguably the most connected team that I've been around. They enjoy being around each other. They enjoy fighting for each other. They enjoy practicing together. And when you're connected, you can do special things. And so I'm really looking forward to watching this team compete this year.
You know, I know when you first came in 2023, the word of the year was embrace. Last year, 2024, was pursue. This year, 2025, it's earn. I want you to share, what does it mean to earn, right? Everything that's been handed to you, that's been entrusted to you. Speak to why you chose that word.
Yeah, and as you look back as a coach, you're always trying to committed to all right, what helps this team realize the potential they have, and you mentioned when we got here, embracing. Hey, I was new. Our coaching staff was new. Hey, just embrace us. Basically saying, hey, trust us. Good things will happen, and we had a tremendous year. And then the following year, we were pursuing. We wanted to go after something. We didn't want to defend anything. But I think what happened during that year, what I learned, what God taught me through that year, is we felt like we deserved winning without going after it. We deserved, because of what happened in the past, we deserved these things, and we didn't earn any of those, the opportunity to be a champion. We didn't earn it. And so this year, as we were praying through things, we're like, hey, we got to get back to the mentality that we're not entitled to anything. Just because we're at a special place here on the mountain doesn't mean that we can sort of roll the ball out and good things are going to happen. And we wanted our guys to understand what it means to earn the opportunity to be a champion. And every little thing that you do matters. And so we took the locker room away back in January. They had to earn the right to get back in their locker room. They had to earn the right to wear their clothes. All these little things that they take for granted, that we all take for granted. Hey, everything you're doing, you're earning the right. And I believe our team to this point has had an unbelievable, mentality of earning that. They've come out every day, and they've practiced the way we want them to. They've had a great attitude. And so up to this point, they've earned everything they've got. Now we're just starting the season. But as far as the mentality that you want to have, the connection, they've done tremendous. And that's why we chose that word. Is like, we don't want to be entitled. We want to earn everything we're given.
That's right. Entitlement, like we just talked about, is the expectation without the effort to go and earn what has been entrusted to you. And I think what you guys are doing is you're teaching responsibility, because at the end of the day, football, life owes you nothing. Right? You have to go and take what God has presented to you. And in a sense, your prosperity is your responsibility. And so as you continue to teach that, I'm just thinking of the shift in tide in college athletics, the transfer portal, NIL. Things have changed rapidly in the last 3 years. Since you got here, it's changed. I can only imagine. Speak to the importance, because you talked about the brotherhood, you talked about commitment, you talked about just being close and the camaraderie within that locker room. How difficult has it been to build culture, and how have things shifted throughout your college coaching days?
I think that's among other things, I think that's maybe the hardest challenge a coaching staff has nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 3 years, we've averaged 40 to 50 players turnover every year. Think about
insane.
that. And so, and that's just, and we're not the only ones. I mean, at this level, that's what happens. And so, how do you maintain, but also continue to raise the standard and the culture you have? We've had challenges with it. Before really all this, let's say, money got involved when we first got here, you lay the culture, you uphold the standard, and I believe everybody did embrace that. And then money starts getting involved, and then they start realizing, hey, that's not important to me. I don't have to worry about that, but I can still go get my bag, so to speak. And as coaches, this year we got together and said, hey, listen, what we went through last year, we can never happen again. So what do we have to do differently? Or how do we have our same message but make sure they understand it, communicate it in a different way? And we really, this off season, made a decision. This is who we're going to be. This is the standard we're going to have. And if you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine, but you're not going to be part of what we're doing. And we laid that out because as a coach, 26 years, I didn't do a good job last year of this is who we are, and we're not dropping below it. I compromised. And one thing I know, if you're going to have a standard, you can't compromise it. And I, as a coach, I compromised and didn't do a good enough job for that team and for the staff of holding the standard consistently where I needed to. And so for me, it was looking inward. I've got to do that. And then also the coaches have to follow up on that as well and say we're not compromising what we believe in. The beauty of that is when you lay that out, there's people that want to be part of that. Yes. And I believe the guys that came in from a transfer want to be a part of it. And the ones that didn't, they left. And so people on the outside look and say, hey, we lost some good players. We did. Also, I look at it, they really didn't want to be a part of what we were doing. And so sometimes it's addition by subtraction.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think, every team is unique. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're bringing in 40, 50 new guys, right? They're transferring out. Here comes the next group. And I think back in the day, you used to be able to develop a program, right? This is our program. This is our culture. This is what we stand for. Obviously, a standard like you're preaching. But then at the end of the day, it's also like now it's just building up a team. I think I heard you say that recently in an interview. It was like, hey, it used to be about the program. Now it's about this unified team, this unified group. What is our goal to accomplish together? Next year, it might look different. The locker room, we know, will look different. But how do you get the most out of these players? And so when we're talking about maximizing potential for this unique group, when we're talking about being brothers, right, being familial, I think there's a lot of recruiter coaches out there. They can recruit talent. They struggle developing it. You're somebody who focuses a lot on development, but also focuses a lot on relationship. To a coach out there that's maybe watching in, whether it be college, whether it be high school, how do you build culture, Coach Chadwell?
Well, I think the two words that come to mind for me on that is, one, there's got to be consistency. And so they need to know who I am when I meet them. Yeah. That's who I am all the time. I think what happens, because there's so much change and you're recruiting guys, especially guys that have already been at a college and maybe they got burned or it didn't work out. They're trying to find who can they trust. Yeah. And I think if you're consistent, consistency builds trust. And so as coaches, what I tell our guys in this new way is we have to be consistent in who we are, what we speak on, and our actions every single day. And I think that's what's really helped us navigate this challenging time is that anybody that comes in here, they've seen that how we are on a visit is how we are all the time. And the more consistent we've been, that builds trust. And so I believe those guys, they trust us, I don't want to say sooner or quicker, but we gain their trust. And once you have trust, then they know, hey, this guy, this coach staff, they do care for me, so they can push them. We can't say this is who we're going to be. This is our standard. We're not going to drop it. Why? Because we love you, and we care for it. And I know this is all about a one-year thing, but I still in my mind think what's best long term. Might not be best for you right now, but I know it's going to help you long term. You might be with me 6 months, and I got to try to impact you for 6 months then. I think it's easy in today's world to say, oh, you're only with 6 months. But that's not who we are. That's not what God's called me to be. He's used me as a mission. I believe this is my mission field, is to still give him the opportunity, give people the opportunity to learn about him, whether it's, as I said, 6 months. We'll have guys that just got here in July, and they're going to be leaving in December. But get a chance to impact them. God's brought them here for a purpose, and I think that consistency allows us to gain their trust. And once you have trust, you can do a lot of things.
I love that consistency, which ultimately leads to trust. I do believe this, Coach, and you know this, we live in a culture and society that preaches outcomes over obedience, platforms over the process, visibility over virtue. And so for these athletes that are coming in, it's like my dad would say this, there's a lot of type A personalities, but then there's also type T personalities. Type T personalities, they're the thrill seekers, right? So they are always seeking the next thrill, but what leaves the inevitable question, what happens when the thrill fades? What happens when the winning stops? What happens when the playing time gets cut a little bit? What happens when you drop a couple of passes or you make a bad throw? What happens next, right? It's about how you respond. Can you choose resilience over recognition? And I want to ask you this because there's a lot of young athletes that'll watch this. There's a lot of high school athletes, a lot of guys that want to get recruited to come and play at the next level, maybe to come here to Liberty University. And I say this all the time, and you say this all the time, and every coach really is going to preach this, that winning isn't just the goal, it's a byproduct. So let me ask you this to a young athlete out there, not just an athlete, just a person. What does winning really require in order to be great in life?
Oh, that's a great question. I would share a couple things with that. Winning requires it's funny, we talked about a team. Winning requires something thinking above yourself. Think about others. And what I mean by that is when you are focused only on yourself and only on your goals, when they don't happen, when maybe you are hitting drop passes or something, then you start questioning everything.
That's right. You doubt.
You start doubting. And once doubt sets in, now you start, can I even do this? And you're just a downward spiral. But when you put thinking about, hey, I want to do well because it's going to help X, Y, Z, it's going to help my team be the best, then that pressure comes off of you because you're doing it for more than just the outcome, like you're talking about, the win or the starting job or whatever. You're doing it because you care about others, somebody else, just as much you care about yourself. But the second greatest commandment, you know. And we talk to our team all the time is we're going to love each other. We're going to love our brotherhood. We're going to love each other as much as we love ourselves. And I think when you're focused on that, the pressure goes away to perform. Because you're not focused on your own performance. You're focused on doing well for somebody else because you care about them. And so I would tell a young athlete, don't focus on – it's great to have goals. It's great to have objectives. We all have those. But put it more in a team concept and say, if I do these things, my team does well. And when your team does well, is I was always raised as the tide rises all boats. You know, and so if your team's doing well, you're going to end up doing well because you're a big part of that. That's a hard challenge because, and Zach, you've seen this. As mental health challenges are huge, and a lot of it is performance based. So much anxiety because if they feel like they don't perform, they're not going to get the money, or they're not going to get their goal of making the NFL. And my job as a coach is not to not have those goals, not have those objectives, but hopefully. Phrase them in a different way to where that, hey, what you learn through the process is going to set yourself up for much more success than if you make it just – because it's not about making it. It's about staying.
That's right.
It's about having enough character, having enough wisdom to know if you get something that you want, how to stay and maintain it. And so that's a hard job, but that's what I would share with young people.
It's the process of becoming. I'll never forget walking off the field for the very last time at Liberty, and I had made the decision in my mind that I was going to pursue sports psychology and ministry, and that's just what I felt like the Lord was kind of steering me toward and all the other options. But I remember walking off the field and thinking, like, was it all worth it? Was it all worth it? And I'll never forget walking to my car, and my dad was there, like he was after every game, and this just happened to be a little bit different. The emotions were heightened because that was it. That was the close of a chapter. I remember my dad, he could have said all of these different things. He could have easily looked at me and said, look at all the places you've gone. Look at all that you've accomplished. He could have also said, look at what we're kind of leaving behind. Look at the opportunities that you could still go pursue. But instead he said these words like, man, I'm proud of you because look at the man you've become. That's what it's all about, right? That made it all worth it. Look at the process, what it led me to, the blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, I'm grateful. I wouldn't have traded it for anything else. Coach, as I'm thinking about you, as I'm thinking about your story, winning, right, has been in the DNA for the last several years. Like I kind of listed off some accolades, some of the awards, the Paul Bear Bryant stuff, the AP Coach of the Year in 2020. You've had season after season after season where winning was just the thing. But that's not always how it was, right? You had to develop, you had to grow, you had to become and get to the point that you're at today, and we're all still in this process of becoming. Take us back to when winning maybe it was a little bit more foreign than it is nowadays, and how it's adapted ever since.
I remember Division II, North Greenville University, gave me my first opportunity there, and what was crazy about that time is I took the job in February. Division II works on a little different schedule than FBS. Took the job in February, and about 2 weeks in, I'm like, man, I made a mistake. I wonder if I can get my old job back because, you still, all this stuff you're trying to learn as a head coach. And I'm very thankful that the Lord, I look back and gave me that opportunity because I didn't know what I didn't know. And those players there, they were with a young coach that was trying to find his way. And our first year, I tell people, you mentioned all these awards. Our first year there, we were 2-8. But that was probably the best coaching job I did with 2-8, to be honest with you. And but because you're learning as a coach, and I tell you what I think really helped me on this direction I'm going. I tried to be that for 2-3 months. I tried to be the coaches that I were around and that had taught me instead of being Jamey Chadwell. And if I was at another level or whatever, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today without North Greenville saying, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity to grow as a coach. I was trying to be other coaches that I'd learned under instead of being, hey, what is Jamey Chadwell? How does he want to run it? What's important to him? And so that was 2009, February of 2009. And the values that we use today are the exact same. Nothing's changed. What I learned through growing there with that team, and we went through some challenging times. Any job that you sort of go and you take over, I felt like any job that I've gotten, exception maybe of this one, is hey, you need to build it up, right? And how you build anything, you got to have a great foundation. So the Lord was always the foundation. He was always the house. He was always built on rock. But then you have these principles that are important to you, but that time there, learning and going through challenging time, learning how to win, that was God's plan. And I look back and going, and that as a young coach, man, I'm as good as that guy. Why am I not at so-and-so? I played the comparison game, and he really showed me at that point, listen, I've got plans for you. Just trust. And there were some hard times there. My son was born at that time frame, and my wife will ask you, and she'll probably say that was the worst time of our life. But I know as a coach, man, it really helped me find my way and find that I want you to be Jamey Chadwell. That's how I created you, not these other coaches that I'd learned under. It was a great lesson that I learned.
I often think of the lessons that so many of us learn. We learn more through pain than we could ever learn through prosperity, right? When we hit our breaking point, that's often when God shapes us and he molds us and he sanctifies us into looking more like the image of his son. And that's the goal in life, right? That is God's definition of good. As we talk about the mental health implications that a lot of student athletes experience, I also begin to think about the mental health implications that coaches experience, because we talk a lot about the pressure that are on the athletes to go out there and to perform every week. But let's be real, coaches often become the safety net or the blanket that often people will blame when the performance is underwhelming out there. And so, hey, the guys aren't doing well, they're missing their mark. A lot of it shifts to what's Jamey Chadwell doing wrong in the locker room? What's going on? What's wrong with the staff? They're not getting the culture. They're not getting the best out of this team. There's a lot of pressure on coaches. And you know this. If you don't win, then all of a sudden you're the one whose job's on the chopping block. Speak to just the mental health factors that coaches face and talk about the pressure that you've experienced over the years, but you talked about how you root yourself on the foundation of Christ. How has that helped sustain you all of this time?
There is that's an awesome question, Zach. There is a lot of pressure because college football, especially the level we're at, it's a big business.
Yeah,
a lot of money, and so there's a lot of people that are interested in you winning.
Yeah,
and so first of all, coaches put a lot of pressure on themselves to do well regardless, because that's how you're wired.
That's right.
If you're a winner, a competitor, you want to go win and be your best every single time. And all of us were in this sport or whatever sport, so that you're wired that way. So there's this internal pressure that you have regardless. And then again, the higher you climb, did I have as much pressure at North Greenville? No. Yeah. But now the pressure of, especially after you're 13-0, 13-0, I could go
Set the bar high.
Go to one of my favorite restaurants and I'd say hello. The next year you're 8-4, they wouldn't even serve me, And so I learned that real quick, right? But I think if you allow the pressure of the outside to exceed why you're coaching, it'll eat you up. And what my point of that is yes, everybody wants you to win, and we all want to win that. But I believe our staff, the reason why we still coach, and it's harder and harder every year because of what it's about. The reason why we got into coaching is you wanted it to impact the way you got impacted. And so I still view my job as I am impacting young people, whether I get them 6 months or however long. I'm still impacting them, one, for the kingdom, but two, for their future families. And so I always start every season, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Is it for personal gain? Is it for personal glory? Is it still for why you got into it 20-something years ago? And so I believe if you keep your why at the forefront, it allows you not to, let's say, feel the pressure. I know the pressure's there. We all know that. And, we haven't ate before you get in here. I might not be doing this podcast with you anymore. But I think you always got to keep your why in perspective. And if your why is rooted in others, then I think you won't feel as much pressure as there is out there, because there is. I get it. But I've never went into a season or went into any job worried about, oh man, if you don't do well, you're gonna get fired. I know that's happening, but I trust that the Lord's got a plan and a purpose. And if I am pursuing His purpose for my life, and He's still using me as a missionary in this field, then I trust that He's gonna work it out the way He wants it. And if that's somebody not wanting you there, that's His will. It's taken me a while to get to that point. It took me a while to get to that point, but once I've been there, the higher levels that we've gone, the success we've had, it's allowed me to stay rooted, stay faithful, and be able to handle the expectations.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes. A lot of times we focus on, hey, God has entrusted us with a lot. So we have that question, can He trust you with what He's placed in front of you? But at the end of the day, like you said, oftentimes we have to look ourselves in the mirror and remind ourselves that we can trust Him too, because He is the same God yesterday, today, and forevermore. If He's done it before, He can do it again. And so being able to recognize that whether it's a 13-0 or an 8-4, that God never changed. He never promised the absence of pain, but He promises His presence in the midst of our pain. And so recognizing that, receiving that, and walking alongside of Him through this life. We've talked about passion today, Coach. We've talked about purpose, like you said, having a purpose greater than you, because if it's not greater than you, you'll try to make it about you. But then also we talked a little bit more about what it means to find the lessons in the midst of the pain and the processes of life. I want to shift now to priorities. I am a counselor working in the mental health space, leading an organization, and a lot of times I would say 99.9% of mental health experts, what they would say is they'd preach balance and they'd preach rest and they'd preach margin. I don't preach those things. I preach priorities, because I just believe that if you care about it enough, you'll make time for it. And a lot of times when people preach these things, it's because they're doing a little bit less and maybe they kind of want to settle for average and mediocrity. And we understand the importance of rest. Like, you get that. Mm-hmm. But when you're working your tail off here and then you recognize that you have a wife at home and you have kids at home that also you have been called to steward well, not just 108 guys in a locker room and an 85-man or whatever the travel roster is. You have to go home every day and give them your all too, because that's your home team. Speak to the importance of what it looks like and what it means to be able not just to find margin, but to prioritize the things that actually matter, and how that has helped you, not just with the football team, but again with your home team too.
Yeah, that's and I'll say this, Zach. I did a poor job of that early on, and because I think when you get a head job and you have a little success, then you start thinking, oh, if I do better, maybe I get a better job, and you start prioritizing. I want to get this job and you start spending more time on growing your career than you do being the husband and father you want to be. And I really did struggle with that, and it showed. I mean, by the grace of God, I'm not divorced, and my wife and I have talked about this. But our first couple years of marriage, and then maybe our first year with a child, I was not a good husband for myself. I was there, but I was absent, because if I'm there, I was still thinking about here, what was going on. And thankfully, I had a great mentor to help me realize that it does me no good, no matter where you're coaching and accolades and all these things, if you're not the champion in your household. And that's how it was described to me. You can be a champion anywhere else, but if you're not a champion, it doesn't matter. And so I think the reason why, I believe wholeheartedly, the reason why, one, that we've had sustained consistent success, two, sustained consistent coaching staffs, is because we do put our priorities first, and the priorities are our faith. We're going to go to church. We're not going to work on the Sundays. We're going to go do all those things we need to do. And then two, but we're going to have time with families. You mentioned balance. Balance, you can't have balance in jobs. Well, you understand that. But can I be where I need to be when I need to be there and make that a priority? Can I be at the dances? Can I be at the games? But more importantly, when I come home, can I turn this off?
That's right.
And I think that's the biggest key is what I've learned is I don't bring anything home. I used to bring stuff home. I don't do it anymore. When I go to if I'm at a dance thing or whatever, that phone's away because we're focused on what's most important at that time. And then the kids they see that, they sense that. And so I struggled with that really, really at a young age because I was worried about climbing the ladder and didn't realize that God put me on this husband as a gift to I don't say a gift, but hopefully be a blessing to my wife and be a blessing to my children, how to steward them. And I'm, by the grace of God, I've been married 20 years. It was this past summer.
Come on, Coach. Congratulations.
The best thing that's happened to me with that and my kids. And so that is the biggest challenge that I think we all face. Yeah. And I'm sure in your profession as well. And but that is our number one calling is to be a husband and if you're a father, to be a father. And if you're doing well there, I think you do well here. Yeah. And I think we went through some ups, went through some downs, but I think that it helped us all. And I'm talking about me and my wife grow to where we know this is our ministry together.
I'll say this, in the society that preaches striving, go more, do more, be more, become more, God's word, there's a thread throughout Scripture and it's stewardship. Right? If God has entrusted you with something, we all know that out of Luke, right? To whom much is given, much is required, goes back to responsibility. But if God has called us to protect something, then we should value it. We should cherish it. Like you said, we should prioritize it each and every day in our lives. But you said something in there, Coach, that I think was really important. I don't want people to miss this. Every coach needs a coach. You talked about thank God you had a mentor that kind of steered you back to the impact that prioritizing things, especially at home, meant to you. And by the grace of God, here you are, 20 years married with a family that you love deeply, not just here, but more specifically there at home. Speak to the importance of when you're somebody who has a lot of influence, right? As the head coach of Liberty Football, you have a lot of influence. But about what it means to be a man of integrity and how you can accept influence from other people. Why does every coach need a coach?
Well, that's a great question as well. I think one is because if you're doing, I think you're doing your job and you're doing it well, you're going to empty your tank.
Yes.
You need somebody to help you fill it back up. And I can't remember the name of the book. It'll come to me, but I read it. I used to read it a while back, and it was The Habitudes. And he talked about the starving baker, and it was this baker that was fed all these people in his town, and then he stopped doing it because he had nobody to feed himself. He never would feed himself, and I always remembered that. And I think it's important as a coach because you're 108 players, 50 plus staff. So as a head coach, that's 175 players and staff you're responsible for. And then you're responsible for your own family and different things. So there's a lot that is taken away. And if you don't have a chance to refill your cup on my own, refilling my cup, sure, I'm doing my devotions on it. But you need somebody that, whether they've walked the walk at some other point or they've helped navigate others, one, just to fill your cup back up. But two, as a coach, especially as a head coach, I think sometimes you feel like you're isolated. Yes. And you need somebody that you can talk to that will just listen and not feel like you're, if you talk to somebody else, they might sometimes feel like that they're trying to, let's say, gain something on you or use it for their advantage somewhere down the line. Somebody that you can just trust. Say, hey, this is what I'm really struggling with. And I think that's vital to have somebody in that life that can be an influence to help you gain wisdom. Also, just to have somebody that give you a listening ear to, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you pray for me? And that's important. Our players, have people that they can go to, but you don't see a lot of coaches doing that. And I think it's important that you have somebody. Thankfully, I have that somebody that I can call. There's multiple that you can just, hey, help me with something. But that's been a big part, I think, of why we've, as a staff, been able to have some sustained success, because we've been able to have some influence of other people that we can lean on just to help us guide through some challenging times.
Yes, Coach, I hope and pray that you know how much I, along with countless individuals, just love and appreciate you, admire you, and the work that God has called you to, your work ethic, of course, but you got people in your corner. And like you said, when it can feel lonely for a head coach, especially when you have a lot of influence, you have a lot of impact, you're constantly pouring out and investing into others, you got a lot of people that care enough about you that they want to invest in you too. Mm-hmm. I'll say this, Coach. I kind of want to end twofold. So the first question I'll kind of wrap up with is to young athletes out there. They've heard a lot of our conversation today about what it looks like to work hard, what it looks like to take responsibility, to build a culture, have a purpose bigger than themselves. I remember sitting with the head scout of the Tampa Bay Rays a couple of years ago. We're sitting actually at the Hillcat Stadium, and we're watching kind of the top draft pick for the Rays organization. And this kid kind of sees the scout up there, and you can tell that he's kind of on edge a little bit. He's a little anxious. But what was fascinating is I'm sitting there with this guy who's a dear friend. He looks at me and goes, man, I already know this kid can play. I already know how talented he is. We wouldn't have invested the money that we invested in him if I didn't know that thing. All I'm here to find out, not if he's perfect, but if he's a professional. And he said, I'm trying to see how he treats other people. I'm trying to see how he responds after failure. And I'm trying to see what he'll say in terms of, in a sense, his responsibility, his class, his respect to the umpires, to the coaching staff, and to his teammates. Will he cheer when he fails? That's all he was there for. Speak to, as a recruiter, all of these kids, when they see a Liberty coach show up at the field, they get a little anxious and on edge. They think they have to have the perfect day in order to come to Liberty. Yes, talent matters. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of intangibles. What are you looking for as a recruiter that those kids can kind of bank and hang their hat on to say, man, I would rather be more like that as I develop in talent throughout the years?
That's really good. That's a great story you told right there. Two things that we really, really hammer in our recruiting. You mentioned, the talent. Yeah, talent's got to be there. But for us, one, are they coachable? And my point of that is, we really watch if a coach is coaching them, are they really working hard to do what a coach asks them to do? Because as you know, if you're talented, I never really was that talented. I know you were pretty talented. If you're talented, sometimes you just think that talent's enough, and you will not win with those guys because they won't. When they get to college or higher, they won't do the necessary work that matters. So you got to be coachable, and with that being coachable, then there's got to be a work ethic that goes with that. And I think thirdly, though, you got to have a love for the game. I think nowadays they love what the game can do for them instead of really loving the game. And so one of our point of questions is, why do you play football? Why do you play? And it never fails. Every year I get the question, I'm pretty good at it. We stop recruiting them. Because if you're pretty good at something, that's the only reason you're playing it. Somebody else can be a lot better, and when somebody else is better, you're not going to have the dedication, you're not going to have the fortitude to really keep working towards your goal. Now, if that why I love it is because, hey, my grandmother passed away at a young age, and I've made a goal to myself that I'm going to go after everything I can to honor her. And if they have a strong why behind it, those guys, then there's a purpose. When things happen bad to them, they'll overcome. I want overcomers. And so I think that's what more than talent, man, do you have character that you love the sport, you're willing to be coachable, and do you care about others? And I think that's a hard thing to find, because in today's world, it's about how much social media you can get. It's about my mind, how much money can I get, but do you care about others? And meaning, will you show up on time? Will you do the little things that require no talent? And if you do those things, you can be successful at Liberty. And you don't have to be as talented, because I know you'll overcome the lack of talent because you love what you're doing.
I love that. You say, well, you do the little things where talent doesn't even matter. Be coachable and care for others deeply. That's really what you're preaching here. That's what integrity looks like every single day. Coach, we'll close this way. I love your definition of what it means to be a champion. So I'm thinking to the people out there today who maybe are doubting what God has placed in front of them, which leads to that pit of discouragement and disappointment and despair. They find themselves with their backs pressed up against the wall. What's a final word of hope, encouragement, and motivation when our theme here and our mission here at Liberty is to train champions for Christ? Help that person understand, what does it really mean to be a champion?
I would share this, is that to be a champion means to maximize whatever God has given you to the utmost. Don't compare your journey or your ability or your side or whatever else to anybody else. God's created you unique and special. And if you will use what he's given you, he will bless you more than you can ever imagine. That, to me, is what a champion for Christ is, using exactly what he's given you. Some of you raised, some I'll use our team. Some of them raised with no parents. Some raised with one parent. Some adopted. Some not having anything, but trusting that God had a plan for them, and God has used them and used their let's say shortcomings, use them to spread his word and show his glory because of what the opportunity he's given them. That's what a true champion is. Are you using what God given you? You don't have to have everything. You just, whatever he gave you is enough. Just maximize it. That's what we share with our guys. We have great things here. But I tell our team that none of that matters if you don't believe in what you're doing and believe that God's made you correct, made you unique and special.
Like you said, can you maximize what God has already given you? And oftentimes when we seek excess, God says, I've already given you enough. Keep maximizing it every day. Coach Chadwell, my friend, thank you so much just for your time, your willingness to join me in your office today. And thank you for just the opportunity to continue to glean from your wealth of wisdom, knowledge, and experience. I know you guys have a home opener coming up here in 12 days.
12 days.
We will be praying for you guys, rooting for the Flames always. Thank you for your time today.
Appreciate you. Flames.
Flames. To all of our Built Different audience, say thank you guys so much for joining us today. As Coach said, it's not about perfection. It's about presence, and it's about perseverance every single day. Keep on showing up, especially on the days that you don't feel like it, because greatness is on the other side of I don't want to. For each and every one of you, thanks for joining us. We love being a part of your life.